Tervehdys, Laura.
Terve, Otto.
And terve also to everyone listening of today's episode. This is a Spirit of Sauna podcast. In this podcast, we're not afraid to talk about also controversial topics related to sauna. And today, certainly, we have surprisingly, for us Finns, a surprisingly controversial topic.
Yeah. And maybe not so controversial after this conversation, hopefully.
Yeah, let's see how we can sort of we'll try to sort of circle around the topic and then go deeper and perhaps get to the source of all of this, because nakedness, it seems to be like a very superficial thing, really. Like it's very strange sort of cultural phenomenon how we have this. What's our relationship to nakedness? Being naked. How would you describe this? Like, what's like, for example, if you think about like maybe Finland and maybe the Western culture in general, how would you see that? What is our relationship to being naked?
Very strange and twisted.
Short and sweet.
Yes.
Yeah.
To cut to the yeah. I do find it that nakedness is a very sort of as funny as it is, but also in Finland people are very estranged from the concept of nakedness. And even just to what it means to talk about being naked is something that there is a lot of feeling like, I don't know, would I describe it shame or making somebody feel shame. But especially as I'm a mother to 3 teenagers, I realize I have been able to witness them growing up in the Western culture from a child who is still very much who they are to somebody who is very much aware of nakedness, and it has been interesting to notice that when does it start that you start sort of acknowledging your nakedness in the moments of naked, when you are naked, and when you start hiding it from other people. And then again we live in a culture here where people with very little clothes are all over.
Yeah, exactly.
Teenager
I just
eyes.
have to open my Instagram and, because I have a public sauna, what do I get from the search?
Yes.
Is people almost being naked, but not
Almost.
quite. And that seems to be okay, no?
Yeah, it seems to be okay, but this I find very, very interesting, because it is very okay to be with very, very little clothes, but then the body that is shown has to be very certain type.
All right.
For to be shown in Instagram and this thing. So I think it's also you may have little clothes, but you're not really naked. So nakedness, I would say, we are very estranged from that.
Yeah, there's many things that I would want to sort of grab into, and I think I have a suggestion when it does happen. When do we get when we start to be ashamed of being naked? Because my kids are like they don't care. They just run around being naked and don't care at all. They're not self-aware of something like this. It's just a way of being.
How about if other people are naked? Are they aware of that already?
No, not really. Or they are like, no, not really.
Not
like,
in that way.
And also like especially for our dear like American listeners, this is a very like must be a strange idea. That a family goes to a sauna always naked. I've never heard of a family that uses swimsuits when going to sauna together. Never ever. And it's just from the early age. Like my kids have been no more than 2 weeks old when they went to the smoke sauna for the first time. And it reminds me of this one episode where I was listening to this podcast, and there was this biohacker woman who traveled to Finland just to study the health effects of sauna. She's really excited about those. And she did go to like this biohackers sauna, and I happen to know that sauna. It's a magnificent sauna in Espoo. It's one of the oldest smoke saunas in Finland, and beautiful place. And she said she was almost in panic because all of the other people were naked.
Yeah.
And she was like trying not to look anywhere because her husband was right there. So she was ashamed, I think. She had her clothes on, but there were other people who were naked.
Yeah.
And it didn't help that this one guy started to do yoga in the sauna without clothes. So she was, I could see from her eyes that she had this, it was a moment of terror to her. But the podcast host was also funny because he was then saying like, because she was of course trying to be generous and saying, that us Finns, we don't see anything sexual about that. And the podcast host was like, nah, come on, of course there's sexual stuff. They just say that, And that sort of really revealed to me, like this seems to be a general sentiment.
Yes.
Like, and I think it comes all the way down to very basic questions about what it means to be a human, what it actually means to be a conscious person. And we can talk about this by the end of the episode. I think we will jump ahead if we do it now. But if we think about Finland, then in what kind of instances in Finland is it okay? So you said that the Finns are also like quite strange. But is there some instances, sauna of course, but where it's okay for people to be naked? Does something like come to your mind about this?
Apart from sauna?
Yeah.
Not really. No. Sauna.
Because I can immediately think about a few, but I'm thinking whether you can.
Yeah. Sauna and spas, but then when it's okay to be naked in the modern Finland, I think they are then sort of private and intimate moments. But
then on the other hand, I'm thinking about when Finland wins the ice hockey championships. You see a lot of naked people because it's in May, and in May, it's starting to be warm.
Yeah.
But actually, being drunk.
Being drunk is another. That's what I was also thinking. That then there is this when you're under very heavy substances.
Yeah.
Then that's the time people. I don't know if it's only in Finland or is it all over the world. That's the time maybe.
Hard to say.
But at least in Finland, yeah.
But on the other hand, like being on your summer cottage, going swimming. That's another thing. Like even if there's a lot of traffic, people going in and out, with the boats and everything, if you see someone, like for example, we used to have a cottage in Vartiosaari, which is an island very close to the center of Helsinki.
Yes.
And we would have a boat full of usually Japanese tourists going twice a day, and we wouldn't we're there having a sauna and we're going to swim. We're not going to put swimsuits. Yeah. And it was kind of like I liked the idea that there was no trouble. I could imagine in some country, that it would be a serious matter.
Very big.
I heard from Arizona, for example, that there's a person who has big trouble with this because he's just going out to cool off from the sauna, and if the neighbor happens to see, you might be in court. Very soon you might be on the sex offender list.
Yeah.
So we don't have this kind of stuff. No. So there's sort of, I think, I agree, Finns are also kind of estranged about this, but there still is this culture, swimming on your own yard or on cottage, maybe like being in this very jubilant mode, people would just laugh out somebody, like especially a man, running naked or something like this. So this reminds me of this, that there's this, apart from some, this sort of carnivalistic idea, or maybe even a freedom idea behind that is possible.
But I think still the main place where a modern Finn feels totally fine and nothing sexual and nothing, no shame, nothing, is the family sauna. And that is something very unique, I feel, in Finland. And I do believe that in this photoshopped world where you cannot even soon know if something is artificial or whatever, you cannot see even something that is not produced by something artificial. Family sauna is such a healthy, grounding thing for children to grow up with. And I do believe that is one of the very unique things in the Finnish culture. Okay, maybe some other neighboring cultures also still share this idea of a family sauna where everybody removes their clothes and they go into the sauna as they are. There are different ages, different backgrounds, different stages of life, different moments of life. And everybody is there. And children grow up with seeing different types of bodies. They see bodies changing during time. And I do believe that this is one of the very, very healthy, sort of aspects of that we Finns still have. So no matter how estranged we are, most Finns still share this experience of being in the family sauna.
Yeah, there's actually some data about this because there was an article in the biggest newspaper of Finland, maybe it might be 5-6 years ago. Sekaan vaan was the name of the article, so just mix in. And mixed sauna, of course, was the tongue-in-cheek idea of there. But in this article, they actually made a sort of a survey, maybe 1,000 Finns or something like that, and they noticed that it's half and half. Half of the Finnish people say, I would never, ever go naked in a sauna with a stranger.
Yes.
But with the family,
still,
it was something like 20% who would say, no, I wouldn't go with my family, even with my family.
The immediate family,
yes.
Your own children.
Yeah, I think it was like 10 to 20%. But it might coincide with those persons who don't actually go to sauna. Because it's about 10 or 20% of Finnish people who never go. So I can imagine. But this was behind the decision that we made when we started to have this public sauna shifts. Was we had a really serious talk about this, like whether we should actually allow people to have a sauna naked or use a swimsuit if they like. And we decided to opt for the swimsuit because it is actually like a big problem if half of the population think that it's not for me. Just because of that reason. Yeah. But then we took a risk. Our Wednesday shifts, it's the silent shift, and there it is optional to use swimsuit. And it has worked well. So I was happy that we took this risk. And actually one of the sort of role models for us was the German culture with this. Because in Berlin, I went to Wabali Spa. And I was wondering, like, why do they say textile-free area? Like, what does that really mean? Like, that you cannot use, that you're not allowed to use? And when I finally entered there, I noticed that is exactly the case. It is not allowed to use swimsuits in there. And I've been sort of thinking about this. Why do Germans have even more liberal attitudes toward nakedness than Finnish people in general? Yeah. They have naked beaches, for example, in Munich, where I've been living, the Isar river that flows through the city. It's pretty much a nude beach all the way in the city center, so they don't have a problem with this. And I'm not quite sure what's the reason behind this. One thing I know is that East Germany used to have a very strong nudist culture. So it might be that it's this hippie thing living on, so it's a generational thing, because the old people got used to being naked a lot. Then it sort of establishes itself, and since the old people now have the money to build a sauna where they can make it textile free or whatever, this is the reason. And because it might be a generational thing, because our parents and grandparents were very religious, and religion seems to have a lot to do with this. Somehow, maybe it's even the idea that, especially a man, when a man takes clothes off, he becomes this wild beast. Or if there's a woman on the same premises that doesn't have clothes, the man becomes this wild beast. And this seems to be somehow, maybe it's a religious idea. I'm not sure. What do you think?
Well, this could go many ways. I think it's sort of a evolution, or maybe the opposite of evolution of maybe something that is actually like how do you call it when something breaks down, not advances, but goes the opposite side. But anyway, evolution happening, changes happening in the devolving maybe would be the word that I'm looking for. But the idea is that a human being has sort of isolated him and herself from how would I say, from
The elements?
no, not the elements, but from first we wanted to isolate death, then we wanted to isolate dirt, then we wanted to isolate sex.
Yeah.
We want to sort of we isolate everything into different compartments, and we are in that way. Then the urges that we talk about are something to be afraid of, that are uncontrollable.
Right.
You know, so in that way, then we have this idea that death is something scary to be avoided, and something like sexual urges, they are something that just take over you, and they are something that are not really you, but they just take you over, and sort of you like cannot
a demon
do, like a demon possessing you,
yeah.
and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
And people are sort of taught of ways of control. And this controlling concept has, I feel, also penetrated our concept of sexuality and also femininity and masculinity.
Yes.
So everything is like control and out of fear.
Yeah.
So, and this shows, I think, in this culture that, okay, if I see a naked person, then it's out of my hands. This is like, it's nature is something outside of me, and it just takes over me. And sort of something I have to restrain.
Yeah.
And if I cannot restrain it otherwise, then let's hide everything.
yeah. But that's, for me, it's a really exotic idea, because I've had sauna, like mixed sauna, since forever. Since I don't remember time when it didn't happen. So for me, like the idea, you know, that it would evoke, like that it would make me crazy, you know, to be in a sauna with other naked people is very like strange and exotic. Like I've had to study like these reactions of some like American people, or even like I'm reminded of my friend from Australia, and she was so happy to go to a women's sauna for the first time, because she said, I've never seen a woman body in my life.
Real woman body naked.
Yeah, only herself, you know. And even if I go to Nepal, you know, they don't even see themselves, because they go to the village pump to wash with the clothes on. And there's no time that they take the clothes off, so they don't see even themselves. And yes, this is very unnatural thing happening. Like, of course we have to see ourselves. Of course we have to see also other people naked, because otherwise we're very susceptible, I guess you say it, something like that, to be manipulated with this. That this is the ideal female body, or this is the ideal male body, and you know, in a body of a female or male, there shouldn't be this or that, and so on. And it's very strange how this sort of crosses with this culture of almost being naked that is all around everywhere, especially in the Western world. So I think we're just very confused with this question. Yeah, totally. Very confused. Yeah.
We are obsessed with being as little clothing as possible, but at the same time we are so scared of it.
Yes.
And we have sexuality all over, but at the same time we are like really want to stay as far as possible, and we are so confused and mixed up with it. Yeah.
I would actually like, we have talked about sexuality, but it almost feels like blasphemy to talk about, because it doesn't really compute with me. But there is this important point that that can be found from the Baltic Finnish tradition. That's what I know a lot about. Also yoga, actually, is that when we talk about sexuality, it is something that is evoked. You know, you find your ways to evoke sexuality with your partner. So it's not like something that sort of flames itself. If it flames itself, it's probably a hormonal imbalance. You know, a person who's in teenage years, I understand if you're 15 and you go to sauna, then it's a little bit like, it's nice to have these girls in, of course.
But it's wherever you go.
Exactly. It doesn't matter if the girl has clothes or not. Yes. Of course, your hormonal system is completely haywire. But if you're like 50 and you still have this kind of attitude, isn't that like a little bit, shouldn't you give it a pause and think about why? Why is it such a taboo, for example? Why is it such a taboo to even like think about it? If you'd be anywhere else than in Finland, and you would just have a dinner party with close friends. You would eat, maybe the kids would go to sleep, and then you would have a glass of wine, and they would say, hey, sauna is ready, let's go. And you would say, and somebody would ask, like, do we have our like swimsuits or whatever? And you said, no. You know, this would be probably like most of the people in the world just the most rudest like thing to suggest ever. But for a Finnish person, it's the most natural thing to do. Like most of the parties end in sauna, one way or another. At least if you do sauna quite a lot. So the thing is, like, what I'm wondering now is it that since this used to be really the normal thing, it's not more than 30 years, I think, that's been very normal. Like, I think that 80% of the people would say, yeah, of course I can go to sauna with anyone. But now it is all the time declining. Like, more and more people think that it's not okay.
Yes.
So is it actually, could it be that it's something to do with our hormonal system? Is it something to do that we're not balanced? I think this control aspect that you took like as an explanation is very good. It certainly is a part of it. But is it also so that, you know, it is not like you can help yourself? And if your hormonal system, like a teenager, if it is haywire, if you're not balanced, a very balanced person in that sense, then you're kind of trapped in this. Yeah. What do you think?
I do believe that is one way to explain it very well.
Yeah.
It is, of course, clearly we are so out of balance.
Yeah.
Like if you just walk on the street and would have some way to scan everybody's hormonal balances, I think 99% would be like big red lights showing that really imbalance.
Yeah.
It is just a fact. Our modern life culture is so imbalancing.
Yeah.
We are full of distress and totally just everything throws us off. So I do believe that is very, very true. It's I think it's more it's in the modern day it's rare to meet with a person who is hormonally balanced.
Yeah.
And lives a life that cultivates that. But also I do see that this is also one way we could look at it is our lack of how would I say rituals or understanding of ritualistic behavior in our life, because we take nakedness in sauna, we take it as a technical factor.
Yes, right, exactly. Like heating up the sauna is technical question and so on. Yeah.
So then it's a technical thing. Of course, it's not so important technically. You can have a swimsuit and you still have the sweat coming and still have this thing. And then you're like, oh, of course I have. But when you start observing sauna as a ritual, as what is the purpose? What do you do in a sauna bathing ritual? Then nakedness starts looking like something very different.
Yeah. Well, expand on that. Like, what do you mean? How does being naked in a sauna affect the ritualistic aspect?
Well, because the sauna is the just very practically. When you prepare for sauna, you heat the sauna, you prepare the waters, you prepare the place, you clean everything, and then you wanna also enter into the sacred chamber of löyly as much authentically yourself as possible.
Right.
And our clothes, they are the roles. They are the sort of the expectations. They are what duties, what like sort of stamps we put on ourselves.
Yeah.
And then we have with our clothes we express our roles and all these other identities that we carry. We express it to the world and also express it to ourselves.
Yeah.
And just the act of removing clothes is a very sort of purifying act. It's sort of you're actually physically removing. Clothes are the second skin, so you are sort of removing one layer fully and exposing yourself, and in that way you have a chance of being more authentically. Being, harmonizing yourself in fully. Of course, then you have the full skin is our largest organ, and also there is the whole interaction going on there.
Sure.
So that is also, but that is, I feel, still more on the technical level. Very much in the essence is that when we enter into the sauna, we want to be the servants of the löyly. We don't want to carry our family lineage burdens or our work burdens or our maybe traumas that we have or anything. We want to remove all, and we just enter into the sauna as our own true selves, just as we are today in this moment, as I am.
Yeah, and this is actually behind the sort of really touching aspect that many Finns report about sauna, is that you might be sitting next to a millionaire, on the other side sits a poor person or a homeless person, and on the lower bench there's the local priest, and all of these people are just there talking about whatever, usually not about politics, not about economy, that kind of stuff, but like maybe pondering about the löyly, oh, it's so nice tonight, and so on. And it wouldn't be possible with these clothes. Yeah. If you have the clothes, it already defines you as something, you're part of the society. And this is a very interesting idea, this ritualistic. How do you enter the sort of bathing ritual? And being naked is certainly part of it. And this sort of reminds me, I would like to sort of go a little bit deeper about this particular point, because when we think about us as conscious persons, we are persons, and we have this conscious experience. And in the philosophy of mind, you can divide your conscious experience into basically two categories. One is called phenomenal consciousness. So it basically means just, it is something, what is it like to be you? So this classic article by Thomas Nagel asks like, what is it like to be a bat? So there is something that is like to be a bat. There is something that is like to be an Otto. There's something, somebody could even say there's something what it's like to be a tree. It's possible to say something like this. Yeah. But this is sort of in the heart of the question about consciousness. What does it mean to be a conscious person or an animal or ecosystem even? And one way to define it is that there is something that is like to be that. But then humans have another layer. It's called metacognition, which means that we are aware that we are aware. So we can make plans. We can think about the past. We can sort of ponder about our thoughts. And it's been a wonderful journey becoming a dad and noticing how this happens in a baby when they turn something like 2 years old. Like my youngest is now 1.5, and he's starting to notice himself in the mirror. Like that it's not another baby, it's not something weird, it's actually him. And this is one of the points where, even according to science, there's a way to sort of measure the metacognitive abilities of the baby, is that you put like a red mark so that the baby doesn't notice, like wipe your nose and then put a red mark here, and then take the toddler to the mirror. And if they start to do like, what is here? That's metacognition. So they notice that. They know themselves. They know that they are aware. So what is the origin of this? Many wisdom traditions actually talk about this. And my favorite example actually comes from the Testament. It's for me, it is a religious text, but not in the way that I would say that it's that you can actually interpret it straight off. You need this mythology. You need this ABC of the basic mythological concepts in order to understand what they try to actually convey. And one of the ways to interpret, for example, the story of Adam and Eve is that where were Adam and Eve first? They were in the Garden of Eden. And, they were walking among, animals and, flora and fauna and everything. And they were sort of with God in that state. But then you have the famous scene of the snake that lowers itself, coils around the tree and brings the apple to the woman. And by this woman offering this apple to Adam, they say that they were eating from the tree of knowledge. So there's many interpretations, and many people, of course, make this really vulgar and stupid interpretations that because of woman we are forever separated from the God and all of this. In essence, this interpretation would say that it's about sort of mythological archetype of a goddess, a mythological archetype of a god, and the god's son, and so on and so on. It's not about like concrete men and women. But the eating the apple is interesting, because what did these Adam and Eve get from this? They noticed that they were naked, so they needed to clothe themselves. Yeah. So what did they get from that was the metacognitive abilities. Yeah. Like a human being is in itself conscious in a phenomenal level. So it is something that what it's like to be a person. But we're not always metacognitive. When we sleep, metacognition shuts down and we live in the dream world. When we have a very good yoga practice, that also happens. Metacognition shuts down. There is no tomorrow, no yesterday, no nothing, just your pure enjoyment of the practice. And this is what is possible to happen in sauna as well. And I think being naked facilitates this, that you shut down your analytical problem-solving state of mind to truly just open yourself for the experience, like a pure experience, the soul of sauna. And I've noticed really this, because most of the times I do sauna alone nowadays. But sometimes, you know, somebody invites me, they come here, take a shift and say, hey, come on, can you join us and maybe talk about sauna with us and so on. And of course, then I put the swimsuits on. It's always a different experience. It really does change that. Yes. I really feel like there's this analytical level presence when I have something on me. And I'm aware of myself, you know, and I even start to think, oh man, I have this striped pants, you know, is it nice? Maybe I should have brought the dark green pants and so on. So it brings this another layer of awareness to the sauna experience. So from this point, I can understand, like, I was watching the Mikkel Åland's wonderful Sweat TV series. Yeah. And I noticed that in the last episode in Burning Man, everybody was naked. And that was a very, like, I would look at these persons like, oh man, this is a holy experience for you. I can notice that you're really sort of, it's not an intellectual thing at all. And then I compare this to many of the sessions that I've been in with the swimsuits on. And what, for example, what are we talking about in the sauna when we have our swimsuits on? Is a little bit different than when we're naked. So yeah, this is one way of how I would approach it all the way to our conscious experience. That whether we are metacognitively aware, analytically, problem-solving state aware, or whether we are phenomenally aware, there's a huge difference. And ritual actually operates in this latter level. So it doesn't need this analytical thinking level at all. We don't need to actually be aware of ourselves when we're performing a ritual in sauna. What would you think about this interpretation?
Yeah, I'm on board. Yeah. But ritual, yeah, sometimes, of course, as a person who performs and operates as a sauna healer, you know, guides somebody through sort of structured ritual which tries to mimic some sort of pattern of this sort of mythological story. And there I have realized maybe something similar what you're describing, that the importance of clothing works also in a way that maybe not to make you more aware, but give you the role, give you the bigger guidance than your own limited analytical problem-solving mind could ever come up with. You know, our clothes, they carry our roles. Yeah. They carry a lot of meaning. Yeah. So, yeah, it might be that if you want to have this sort of sauna, you want to remove them because you don't want to put any meanings on it. You just want the pure experience. Yeah,
just what it has to give you today.
What it has to give you today. Yeah. Let the löyly be as it is. But then when you are working as a sauna healer and you put on your clothes, you have your certain dress, your ritual clothing.
Uniform.
Uniform. Yeah. It gives you sort of the bigger strength
Yeah.
than what you have for yourself. And ritualistic clothing and paraphernalia has always been valued a lot in go to any culture, but also in sauna. You have your sauna ladle. It's something very unique, or vihta, and then the clothes also.
Yeah.
So that way I find that clothing can also be not necessarily that they evoke your metacognitive mind in that way that you are sort of not able to migrate to a larger experience.
Yeah.
Okay, that was badly said.
Yeah, no, but I get it. Yeah.
Sort of that you clothes don't necessarily limit you to your limited experience.
Yeah.
But they can also clothes that you, for example, if 1 year after another you perform a sauna ritual in certain clothing, it can also sort of carry the strength of all those rituals and maybe every other ritual that has ever been performed in anywhere, anytime.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Yeah, because it's quite a different thing. Like, for example, you can probably imagine this where you would save your sauna sort of gown and your grandchildren would find it.
Yes.
Like, it would have meaning. Like, if I would save this t-shirt, no, maybe this one because it has
maybe
no sauna, they would like to find it.
Yeah.
But like my sweaty t-shirt from
or
know,
your
whatever.
Pants that you
exactly. They would find this, oh man, this is trash.
Yeah.
But your gown, it's Latin wood meaning. And now that you mentioned this, I'm starting to think about sauna hats. Because also in this one Facebook group of sauna lovers, I found a discussion about, like, somebody was asking, is there a long tradition of sauna hats in Finland? And very angry Finnish people were saying, no, not at all. There's absolutely no tradition of sauna hats, which I could dispute, but it doesn't even matter. Because that's also like how I think about it. Is for me, it's the sauna hat is just a necessity in a smoke sauna. It's sort of whatever other sauna I go to, fine without a sauna hat. It's all right. But with a smoke sauna or a Russian banya, it's almost impossible without a hat. So for me, it's a necessity in there. Swimsuit is not a necessity. It doesn't actually give me sort of extra protection. It doesn't it doesn't allow me to enjoy it more. It doesn't.
It's a little bit maybe opposite than giving protection. It's sort of
it doesn't feel good.
You don't have the air, the breathing of the skin freely.
Yes. Yeah, and then even if I go to the cold pool, it's full of bubbles and all of this. It's not good. But with the sauna hat, kind of like, I want to have a particular hat. I want to have a hat which sort of has a symbol or has a very important slogan for me or something like that, because I want to sort of, I want to give you, almost use it as a sigil in this ritual. I don't go there without it. So I'm already in the sauna. It's very cold in the winter, and I was, oh man, I forgot my hat. I go back and to get it. And it's in this way, this kind of piece of clothing can have very special meaning in the sauna. But now I start to think, perhaps like this could be said about some swimsuit. Like, I can imagine a situation where there's this sauna freak person who goes to hundreds of saunas every year, and they have this special swimsuit. Because it's always the same. It's like if he loses it, they're like, oh man, I lost. It's the best, I've used it for thousands of sauna sessions, and then you can sort of load or upload meaning to this very particular piece of clothing. But this doesn't seem to be the case, and I think there's just one thing that we can prove this with is the amount of swimsuits that is left to the sauna. Like, we get like 5 to 10 new swimsuits every week. So it seems to be like this thing that you buy, you forget somewhere, you buy a new one, you forget somewhere, and so on. So it's also this kind of like one-time usable thing, almost. Not one time, but not meaningful. So maybe it's not even like just sort of, it's not a requirement to be completely naked to have a ritualistic aspect to the sauna. But those clothes that you use maybe should have like a very special, like it should be something that you would want your grandchildren to find, so that they would understand that it was something very, very meaningful for you.
And like what you were describing very nicely, the difference between sauna hat and swimsuit, the purpose.
Yeah.
Swimsuit doesn't give you, it doesn't take your ritual to a next level. It doesn't provide you with the tools that are needed to perform this ritual. It doesn't require, like sauna hat, it's a requirement for being able to do an hours long bathing without feeling sick, without having too much heat on your head. Swimsuit doesn't provide that. So the purpose of the ritual items that we can say that advance the ritual or are tools for the ritual to happen. We need a ladle to pour the löyly, but we don't necessarily need swimsuit or clothes, you know. So this, I feel, that defines also that what is the requirements of for the completion to for that ritual to be complete, to be whole, to actually perform what it's supposed to perform. Because ritual activities, I feel, they are actions that we do that have some pattern, have some sort of guideline or guiding thought behind them. Yeah. And they fulfill a purpose. And I don't see that swimsuit has that sort of it doesn't provide more for the ritual, but actually the opposite, it takes away. Yeah. And I personally also feel that sauna is every time different, and it's for very different purposes. If you're doing a women's moon sauna, or if you're doing a public sauna ceremony, or if you're having your family sauna, it's the requirements for that ritual to be complete, for that ritual to be whole, are very different. Yeah. And the family sauna, I feel that maybe it's best to just remove the hats and clothes and just, you know, have that family bonding. So in that way, the meaning, the importance of nakedness is, I feel that it comes from the, how would I say, from the core of the bathing ritual. Yeah. And it's not a value on its own. Yeah, it's not important that just that you are naked, because there can be reasons why you're not. You're working as a sauna healer. You're not naked. Exactly. But nakedness is not in that way that it's something that we should aspire for. Yeah. But when the ritual, when the necessity for the ritual to happen, then it's important part of it. Yeah, exactly. It's not an end in itself, but it is. I would even think about it like as a tool. But of course, I can understand that it can also be like it's about a culture. So if your culture has said to you, like some 35 years, that being naked is evil. You know, being naked among people who you don't know, or being naked with people even who you know, is evil. Yeah. Then how on earth can you dismantle this kind of conditioning in a ritual of 1.5 hours? You can't. No, you cannot. But sort of then I think it could be something like this. Just give it a try. Just having agreeing, for example, agreeing with friends. Let's try naked, like a mixed sauna. Why not? Let's give it a try. Like with friends, you do other kinds of you try other things as well. We go to this very exotic restaurant or whatever. I've never experienced this, or jump from an airplane.
Exactly. Jump or a bungee jump or whatever. So why not doing something like this to dare yourself that we can actually and especially with friends, it's a good start because it can be a very sort of it can deepen the trust. Then there's sort of nothing to hide anymore. You've been to sauna naked, so in that sense, you've seen your friend naked, so you don't have to think about that kind of thing. If you had thoughts about what would my friend look like naked, then you've seen that. All right, and we can just get past that and deepen our friendship and our trust because of that. So it can really be also this practical tool, and in that sense, like a ritualistic tool to add trust among people. So it's sort of, in that sense, it is a ritual in itself. On the other hand, like I go to public saunas with the swimsuit all the time. I really want to be able to enjoy sauna, even though I do consider this swimming suit a little bit of a impairment to that enjoyment. But still, you know, it's about, you know, being able to adjust yourself in the cultural norms and all of this. And also the same way in Germany. Like, I think it was actually kind of freaky being in a massive spa where everybody's naked. But, you know, I would go along and just go to the Aufguss where it's a theatrical show, and even the sauna guy has like theater, you know, clothes on, and then we would all be there naked with the disco lights and everything. It's exotic to me, but you know, to be able to enjoy this experience and you know, just to give it 110%, I want to enjoy, even though, you know, I wouldn't do it in my own sauna like this.
But also, I always remind people that above all, sauna is a place of pure honesty. So if you're not comfortable being naked, don't be. Yeah. That's where you are right now. Yeah. You know, just be your true self. And if your true self right now says that, no, I don't want to remove my clothes, then don't remove them.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, sauna is a place where it's very bad idea to pretend anything. Yeah. Because in the sauna, every small thing is emphasized so much. So if you're not comfortable being naked in the presence of your friends or in the presence of your family, or especially in public, I do feel that it's really important to have the bravery to be honest about it, and especially honest to yourself. Yeah. And maybe then explore, why is it? Do I maybe have something I think about myself, think about the world? Where is this coming from? Yeah. What is my view of or concept of a human being? Why I feel like this? And that can be an interesting exploration to your own self. But in the sauna, don't pretend. In the sauna, it's important to be honest.
Yeah. And I can even attest to this myself. You know, I was wondering this one day, the fact that, you know, like, for example, if I would join our Wednesday shift, the silent sauna shift, where the swimsuit is optional, I wouldn't have a swimsuit. On the other hand, I wouldn't upload like naked pictures of myself to Instagram. So, you know, what's the deal? You know, wasn't it supposed to be like, I'm non-metacognitive when I'm like, why wouldn't I just share it with the world? And there is this point, of course, that it's a very special circumstance. Yeah. Even if I'm there with strangers in this sauna shift, still it's special. We're sharing that for the 2 hours or 3 hours. And there, you know, I share also this, that I don't, you know, having myself like without roles and everything and so on. But it's not for every kind of purpose. And that's the reason why I don't run around like the whole, you know, village without my clothes on. If I do, you know, hang out without clothes on my own yard, I take care that, you know, neighbors are not looking too much because I don't want to bother them. This might bother them. So in sauna, I'm also, it's about it that I'm willing to take the risk that maybe somebody's bothered by my nakedness. But on the other hand, the risk is pretty low because these people they all agreed. Okay, I wear a swimsuit, but I know that some people won't.
I do believe that you are raising a very important point, because what has happened to us that whilst we have lost the basic concept of what is a human body naked, we don't see naked bodies, realistic naked bodies. We have at the same time have this huge drive to expose ourselves. And it's crazy. It's really damaging, because when you remove your clothes, you are naked. You're really bare. And it's the clothes are for a reason. They are our second skin. Skin is our border. You know, border of exchange. So we have an exchange with the world with our skin and with our clothes, and they are protection also. So it's for me, I don't recommend anybody to start removing their clothes and exposing themselves carelessly. It's a very sacred ritual what you do, and you don't share sacred rituals with just anybody and just anywhere. So for me, our podcast episode of Nakedness is definitely not an encouragement for reckless nakedness.
We have to maybe put it in the episode info. This is not an endorsement of reckless nakedness. Although we did start with the fact that when Finland wins the world championships in ice hockey, there's a lot of naked people running around the streets, and that's all right for me, but I wouldn't do it. So,
likewise.
But I think there's many different aspects to it. I think we sort of covered the idea why it could be a good idea to give it a try to remove the swimsuit in the sauna, but of course it's not a dogmatic thing at all. Well, there's a reason for for especially these public sauna shifts with the swimsuits on.
If you have a chance to have sauna by yourself, that's the best place to start.
Right. Yes.
Have your own private ritual and try it naked. Don't take towel, don't take anything, because when you're bare for the löyly, it's a different experience. And I do believe this is what many Finns practice at their summer cottages. Even if in their city sauna they would use some cloth or something, but in the summer cottage, when you have that privacy of nature and nature surrounds you. But when you have a chance to bathe by yourself, try it. That's already how would I say? It's a very important tool to sort of, how would I say, make your concept of human whole. Just
to be terve.
To be terve, to be whole, to be wholesome, to own your own self, your full self, that you're naked with yourself.
Right. This is great. I think we're gonna end the episode to this. This is a great tip from you, Laura. And what an episode. I really was looking forward for this topic, because I know it's a bit controversial, but I think we could sort of tiptoe around it so that everybody can maybe get an aspect or two to help build a ritualistic sauna, or at least especially sort of non-thinking, non-analytic, non-technical sauna, if you're interested in that. And this is one element in that process.
Wholesome and holistic sauna.
Yes, exactly. Kiitos, Laura.
Kiitos, Otto.